Welcome back, friends, to another UU at Home chat. This week, we're talking about the question, what is church for? Why do you come to church? Why do we hold this container for one another? And I'm wondering, Nico, do you have a story for us about this?
Yeah, so throughout the year, we actually ask kids to answer this question sometimes. And it's kind of a big question. Why do you come to church? And often at the beginning of the year, we get, I come for the cookies. I come because my parents make me. Um, kind of, with that undertone of, I really don't want to be here actually. So why are you asking me why I come? But throughout the year, and not because there's anything huge shifting at church itself, there's a shift in the answers. And it starts to change a little bit. I come to see my friends. I come to talk about what's happening in the world. I come to share how I'm feeling today. Um, and that's a little change in the people themselves, the kids themselves, in their answers to why do you come here? Why do you come to church on Sundays?
Yeah, I think it's the case both for children, youth, and adults too, that it takes a while to name those answers. And that I think often we kind of have like a stock answer ready. I came because I was looking for a church for my kids, which is a totally valid reason. But I think that there's also like if we slow down and really listen and kind of think about the question in a different way, sometimes um, we can make meaning of our church experience in a different way and even start naming it and opening up ourselves to sharing stories and hearing more stories in a different way too. So I just want to invite those of you who are listening into a couple of breaths for a moment and into a different way of noticing and wondering. So take a breath and close your eyes if you're comfortable. And just imagine for a moment that you are among your church companions, whether it's virtually or here at 328 Maple Street. Just imagine for a moment what it is that you feel when you are in the midst of your church community. What do you feel in your heart? What do you feel in your body? Do you feel a load off? Do you feel seen? Do you feel supported? What is it that you feel? So my invitation then is to, I guess, both simplify and complicate the question a little bit, right? Because sometimes naming my body feels relaxed when I'm here can tell us something more, something deeper about our experience and about our reasons behind coming somewhere. And the noticing can be, what do you feel when you are a part of your church community that you don't feel anywhere else? Or maybe you do feel in other places too, but feels really worthwhile to experience that in your church community.
It's also important to be able to name that for ourselves in front of other people. And so sort of modeling it almost for kids to be able to witness adults slowing down, like you said, and being able to name why we come to church, how it makes us feel. It's so important for us all to be able to witness other people navigating that and being kind of clumsy about it too. And then following up with that question, well, why do you come to church? And opening up an invitation then for this to not just be a monologue, but to be really a conversation and a deepening of the experience. And that might even add to your answer of why you come to church.
Yeah, I think, and it keeps us from offering just a stock answer every time and to continue to deepen our understanding of why we come to church. And even like through that, deepen our connection to our church community. And I think it's hard for kids, especially because sometimes they just don't know. I don't know why my parents make me go to church because maybe we don't talk about it. But for parents to name that, to say, I come to church because I need a community to help me hold the joys and sorrows in my life and to help me make meaning. Our children then can hear that and go, okay, I can see that that's why you come. And then to then be asked that invites them into the wondering other. And that process itself is about naming the feelings and being vulnerable, which is, again, one of the reasons why we often are part of a church community, because we often do not reward in our society being vulnerable, asking for help, providing space for others to be vulnerable and asking for help. So just the invitation to say, I'm feeling blank today because blank, invites us into storytelling with one another and weaving our stories together in a way that's beautiful and honest and vulnerable. And that practice is not something that we do often in other areas of our lives. I know, kids go to school and they have friends at school and they do lots of great things at school too. And I think our church communities, our spiritual communities are kind of set aside outside of those types of communities because our central work involves vulnerability and deep spiritual work and in community.
Yeah, and sort of the other side of being vulnerable and telling a story is being vulnerable and making space for other people's stories. And how do we receive those? How do we hold those when people share them? In RE classes, we do a feelings check-in where we invite people to hold a stone for a little while in their hand and feel its weight in, the same way that we bring our feelings in with us. And sometimes those feelings have weight too. And I'm kind of, imagining people, sometimes you have a sparkly, glittery, excited stone to bring in with you that day. Sometimes it's really small because you're feeling shy, you don't want to say anything. And sometimes it's this massive boulder that is just impossible. And there's a shifting that has to happen in the space then to make room for all of those things and to hold them. They're all welcome to be placed there next to the chalice, but carefully.
Yeah. And I think, as we model that too, we're modeling not just what we hope for, right? The invitation is bring it so we can hold it all together. But we also, because we do it in the context of a covenanted community, we also are saying you cannot bring your boulder in here and throw it across the room, right? Like we're holding these feelings and experiences that we're bringing into this room tenderly and reverently, and with an open invitation that I'm bringing mine and you can share yours. And so I think, again, it's not something we often get to practice and be intentional about it and name, we are doing this ritual this way because we're doing it so that we can practice holding one another and being in community.
Yeah, and then often at the end of our time together, we do a sort of a checkout question and ask, how were you changed by this? It's we ask, what are you bringing in with you at the beginning, and at the end, what are you taking out? What that's really getting at is naming that shift. So we just practiced holding all this stuff together. We just practiced being vulnerable. We just modeled for one another why we come here. And that changed us a little bit. That required something of us, that taught us something, that's giving us something that is going to affect how we interact in other spaces in our lives. And what is that? Let's name that together. Let's figure out what that is. And often it's, it's a 1 or 2 word checkout, but once again, it's a deep question. It's a deep question, and naming it is really important.
Yeah. And likewise, we're all shifted anytime we come into community with our church, whether it's virtually or in person, every time, right? We've opened ourselves up just a little bit to be cracked open just a little bit or a lot. And we're leaving these places different. And hopefully we're leaving with a little bit of awareness of, if we were to take a few minutes after each experience, right? And breath, and think about how you felt in that moment. Did you feel seen? Did you feel held? What was it about being in this space that was meaningful to you, that is life-giving to you? And then naming it. And so that's my invitation this week to you all is, what is church for for you. Why do you come? What is it that brings you to church? And share it out loud for yourself, or share it with a friend or your family, your circle. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment in the chat or send us an email. Friends, we are hoping you all are well. We'll see you soon.